people use the word I in their conversation the largest number of times, which is an indicator that we are interested in ourselves more than in any other topic or in any other problem or issue. This is a very natural state of affairs, and perhaps the Creator created this trait so that we may have an enlightened self-interest. This self-interest is very necessary so that we may protect ourselves, we may survive, and this survival instinct is natural perhaps to all beings, but certainly for human beings. Today's topic, success and salvation of the individual, that topic reflects our interest in ourselves. Success is a term used by all of us, and it has various connotations, but in all of them it indicates that the people are concerned about how to make the most of their lives. Success is all encompassing, very comprehensive, and has a number of aspects. Coupled with the term salvation, which has a more religious connotation, success becomes even more holistic, because salvation is intended to cover those aspects of life about which normally we do not think. And in religious terminology, salvation is perhaps the term which we use more. Now, Islam has a viewpoint about both of these, but first we must talk about what we mean by Islam in this context. As we talk about and understand about religion, religion is thought to be a kind of force which is negative as well as positive. Negative in the sense that it is supposed to divide people, positive in the sense that it solves problems, those problems which we are unable to solve by ourselves. Islam first addresses the issue of which is a very important issue, of why the human beings get divided among themselves, and whether the role of religion as a constructive force is the dominant role, or whether the role of religion as a divisive force, that is the dominant role. One of the things about which Islam invites our attention is the unity of the human family, and this is one of the recurrent themes which Islam talks about. The fact which is emphasized is that though this term has a very definite meaning, the word Islam means submission to God, surrender before Him, and it also means peace and tranquility, in the sense that submission to God would bring with it peace. So, it has a very definite meaning that a human being surrenders himself to God and makes a commitment of total obedience, total surrender, and total following of the guidance provided by God. This is the meaning of Islam. But this Islam is the path or the divine guidance which is not peculiar to a particular age or a particular country or a particular group of people, but the fact has been emphasized in the divine text, that is the Quran itself, that Islam was the revealed message not only to the last prophet, but actually to all human beings from the very beginning. That is the first man who was created by God, Adam, and along with Adam, Eve, his wife. They were given the guidance by God, and that guidance was Islam. Though in different human languages the words may have been different, but the word Islam has always stood for the total surrender and total obedience to God. So, when we wonder about the unity of the human family, the unity is a historical fact according to the Quran. It very firmly says that the human family was a single family, and that single family was committed to the obedience of God. But then different divisions arose with the passage of time. So, the related theme of the unity of the human family, that theme must be understood in the context of human freedom. Human beings are not compelled by God to follow a particular path, but they have been given their freedom. This freedom is the basis of the human family. This is the basis on which human beings organize themselves, and this actually is the reason why they are able to develop and grow, otherwise humanity would remain stagnant. So, when we think about freedom, then it automatically means that human beings may follow the path revealed by God, and they may also follow the evil path. So, this single united human family which started, that family did not remain united for a very long time, but it was divided because there were some people who wanted to dominate over others. So, this is the reason for the plurality of religions that we see. So, friends, though it is a very important problem that we think about religion and realize that it may play a divisive role, but this is not the actual role of religion, because the actual role of the revealed religion is to unite people. It unites people on the basis of surrender to God, and it invites them that despite all differences, they must be united on this basis of surrender before God. In spite of this, when people exercise their human freedom, they may go into different ways, they may form different sects, and they may follow different whims, but the desire, the ability and the capacity to get united exists in human beings and will continue to exist. Friends, when we realize this, then we know that the dominant role of the divine guidance is to unite people, and when people get united, then they would become a single human family as they were in the beginning of time. Islam starts with this very important central theme, that our relationship with God, our commitment to His obedience, that is the principle on which the path of success starts. The divine text starts with this promise that all of you are entitled to success, falah in the Quranic sense. All of you are entitled to salvation, all of you are entitled to earn the reward of God. The only condition is that we must have a sincere commitment to God. What this sincere commitment means must be clearly understood and must be clearly explained to the people. Friends, the effort is basically an individual effort. Though all of us live in a society, but ultimately we are individual beings. As individual beings, we come into this world, we will leave it as individuals, we will stand before God on the day of judgment as individuals. So, this individual capacity is simultaneously a source of strength, and it also tells us that in spite of social compulsions, in spite of external circumstances, all of us are indeed free and independent, and we can follow the path of divine guidance. The excuse that social circumstances compel us otherwise, that is not a very serious excuse, because as individuals we are free all the time. When we come to this question of success and salvation, then the divine guidance presents us with a very clear cut program, and that program is the one which leads to human success and human salvation. What is our concept of success? The only concept which is satisfactory to human beings is the holistic and comprehensive concept, which does not exclude any aspect of life. Human beings are not only action agencies, but basically they are beings which are endowed with sense, which are endowed with the rational faculty, which have their emotions, which have their intellect, and therefore, the first requirement of success is that our intellect, our rational faculty, our emotions, they must be satisfied. That is, we must know that we indeed have the correct knowledge. Though this world seems to consist of laws which are immutable, and we are discovering the laws by means of science, but also this world is very uncertain. When we come out of our house in the morning, though we have a plan of action in our mind, but we also know that our plans may not be carried out. There may be difficulties, there may be hindrances. So, this is a world of uncertainty, but there is also a great deal of uncertainty in this, and when we realize this uncertainty, then we realize the need for belief. So, that is where the program or the concept of success starts, that is the promise of certainty. In religious language, we would call this belief, in the Arabic term being iman, which we are familiar with. So, the first thing which religion or divine guidance promises as the foundation for success is that you are given the promise of certainty in this world in which we are faced with uncertainty. In this world where our friends cheat us, there is God who will never cheat us. In this world where we have various supports, but those supports are not very reliable, in this world the support of God is reliable. So, this promise of religion is perhaps the greatest thing, which is the bounty of religion, that we are given a foundation which is the firm foundation, a belief in God. Now, this is obviously not a one way traffic, that is, we have the support of God, but that means that we are submitting ourselves to God unconditionally, without any conditions, and that unconditional obedience is the actual form of worship which we perform as we surrender ourselves before God. The divine guidance starts with this inculcation of the belief in the human individual, and this belief in the terminology of Islam, which is the final form of divine guidance, this we call as Tawheed, usually translated as monotheism. So, when we realize the intellectual or the rational aspect of human beings, then that rational aspect demands that we believe in one God and ascribe no partners to Him. Ascribing partners is shirk. Believing in a single God without any partners, this is Tawheed. So, the requirement of the divine guidance in terms of belief is that our belief must be based on Tawheed, and that has the significance or the requirement that only God is to be worshipped, only He is to be obeyed unconditionally, there are no partners, there are no others before whom human beings may bow themselves. This belief, when we acquire it firmly, then this promises us the certainty which is the condition for success. Related to this belief is the belief in the human accountability before God. All civilizations had this concern about the last stage of the human journey. That last stage is not the death as we know it, but with death starts another phase of the human life, and that phase will ultimately terminate in the day of judgment, when human beings will have to render their accounts before God. Why should one believe in the day of judgment? Because our sense of ethics requires it. All the time human beings are concerned not only with the legal structure of laws enacted by human governments, but they are primarily concerned with their own conscience. It is our own conscience, our own sense of good and bad, which compels us to take ethical decisions, and which actually is ultimately the basis of all human legal systems. Without this conscience, without this innate concept of the ethical good and bad, one can never be sure that human legal systems would have any sanctity at all. So, this is the second belief which divine guidance requires us, and this second belief is the necessary condition for success. Now, these beliefs, in order to be actualized, they mean that we need some means through which communication with God is possible. One kind of communication is prayer. We bow ourselves before God, we pray to Him in our difficulties, we ask for His help, we ask for His grace, and this kind of communication is very familiar to human beings. But there is another kind of communication in which God communicates through His messengers the guidance which He provides to human beings. And both communications have a central role in human life. We are compelled by our own nature to pray to God, and that prayer to God is very natural, but we should also be compelled by our nature to seek the guidance of God and to follow that guidance. So, there is a series of messengers which were the most important historical figures in the human historical development, and these were the people who were the model of excellent conduct, and they molded the human society in the form in which God requires it to be molded. As mentioned, the human family started with Adam, who himself was also the first messenger, and this series of messengers had the last messenger as Muhammad, peace on him. And these messengers, they were sent by God to communicate the divine guidance to human beings. There are a number of characteristics, there are a number of very important aspects of their lives which must be clear to us. Human beings, they were not superior to humanity in any respect at all, but they had the claim, they had the distinction that they communicated the message of God to human beings. And this communication was through words, through a text, and more importantly, this communication was also through action. That is, they implemented, they transformed these words into a model through their individual efforts. Then they created a whole society of people committed to these principles, and that society, through its collective conduct, demonstrated the truth of the divine guidance. And not only that, this society also had the final form of the social organization, that is the state, and that state was following the divine guidance in its legal structure as well as in all its collective dealings. Friends, these are the three principal beliefs which divine guidance presents: belief in one God, belief in his messengers, belief in the day of judgment, that is the accountability before God, and they mold the human thinking according to the path in which success and salvation are possible. We realize that without proper thinking, without the promise of certainty, human beings cannot follow any clear-cut path of action. But religion or divine guidance does not stop at merely reforming our thinking, because we are not intellectual beings alone. Human beings are also social beings, and human beings realize their beliefs through their action and through their conduct. So, human beings have been given this guidance in which the second aspect of right action, the correct conduct, that is the important aspect in addition to the correct belief and the correct commitment. The religious action has a number of ritual aspects. Those rituals have an importance provided there is life and commitment in them, but religion does not stop at rituals, but religion has a wider connotation, and that wider connotation brings with it the social conduct of human beings. When we come to the action aspect of religion, then the individuals, they need to project themselves such that their selves are reformed, they are able to grow, and they are able to realize their human potential. For this, the divine guidance, whose final form is Islam, that presents a number of forms of worship. These forms of worship are, all of them are addressed to the Creator, the single Creator who has no partners. As we know that the basic purpose of religion is to remind people about their commitment to a life, and that life is not immediately visible. The right conduct requires that our society and our individuals, both of them, follow this path. The correct action, the righteous action, involves human beings other than ours, and these human beings have certain dues, certain rights. In the language of religion, these are ibad, people who are worshipping God along with us. Abd means one who worships, and these are ibad, the plural of abd, who are worshipping along with us. So, there is a community, and that community in principle includes all of humanity, no one is excluded. So, when we come to this righteous action, then all of us must pay attention to what our relationship is with one another. The closest relationship after God is the one which we have with our own parents. And about parents and then about near relatives, the teaching of divine guidance is that we must be mindful of our duties and do the best that we can do with regard to them. In particular, as far as parents are concerned, more often they would be of old age when they are with us. So, we must serve them to the best of our capability and must never be harsh with them. Then there are our relatives, and then there are people who are poor and deprived and weak. So, these are the people who deserve our attention. These are the rights or the dues of the ibad, the people who are worshipping God along with us, which includes all of the human family. So, the right action starts with this basic action of being good to the people. To serve God and to be good to the people, that is the essence of religion as far as thinking and action are concerned. Then action has other aspects. We realize that being good to the people is essentially an individual responsibility. But by our nature, we are not merely individuals, we also form a society. And to organize the society, we need laws, we need legal structures, we need clear guidance, which is of course provided by God. And then the details are to be worked out. But what is the basic principle of this legal structure? So, the basic principle is justice. As God himself is just, he requires human beings to be just. And in this legal structure of the society as well as the state and international relations, the whole legal structure must be based on justice. Human beings, through centuries of work in which a number of people have participated, none of whose contributions is to be neglected, we realize that the concept of justice has been elaborated, it has been explained, its requirements have been understood, but the concept of justice given by religion still remains the most complete and most holistic, because it is not merely the economic justice, political justice, social justice, but it includes justice in the family, it includes justice when personal relations are involved, and it includes justice in the sense that we do justice with all our potentialities, evolve ourselves into balanced human beings and not neglect any aspect of our personality. So, after this dues of ibad, after being good to the people, the next action required by religion or divine guidance is this implementation of justice. This would be at two levels. One is the level in which we have power, and if we have power, then that power must be used to implement justice. Our intentions as well as our legal instructions, they all must ensure that justice is done in the family, in the social institution in which we are working. If we are the rulers, then our laws must reflect our concern with justice. But this is not all. It is possible that we do not have any power. And if we do not have any power, then we must stand for justice, we must talk about justice, we must raise the demand for justice. So, this is something which the world is familiar with, except that the divine guidance requires it to be a religious duty, not merely a social duty, but actually a religious duty to stand up for justice. Then the action has a third aspect after this justice and being good to the people, and that third aspect is the commitment to ethics. This is the most visible aspect of religion. People understand, and they correctly understand, that religious people should be honest, the truth, and they must use a language which is proper, and their outward behavior should be best behavior possible. All this is ethics, and people are familiar with this, and religious people are supposed to be ethical people. But this ethics has the basic aspect that even in adverse circumstances, ethical considerations must remain paramount. Honesty is not merely the best policy, but honesty is actually the basic principle. So, even when honesty as policy does not seem to be workable, it should still be implemented, because that is the religious consideration for it. So, religion respects ethical principles, but it provides a firm foundation for them. So, when people realize that ethics and morality is a part of religion, in fact the most visible aspect of religion, then they receive a firm foundation. So, in the field of action, the commitment of religion is to grow people, to make them responsible, so that they are morally upright people, and they are the people who stand for justice, and they are the people who do good to the people. Now, how is all this possible? So, all this is possible when you firmly remember all the time the basic beliefs that one started with, that is the belief in God and in the day of judgment. It is possible when we train ourselves intellectually and rationally, but this training is not merely an intellectual training, it is also an spiritual training. So, this is the final aspect of religion which comes to our minds, that human beings are trained formally, systematically, so that they may remember God. So, this is a whole system of worship. As we are familiar with, in Islam, the prescribed worships are salat, in our language we call it namaz, salat, fasting, hajj and zakat. So, this system is one which supplements the intellectual belief, because the salat 5 times a day reminds people again and again about their commitment to God. Hajj does the same task of reminding once in a lifetime, fasting does it once in a year, and zakat is something which enables people to overcome their natural commitment, their natural love for money. So, this formal systematic program of reminding people of their relationship with God, that actually enables people to fulfill this program of religion. That is the program in which they have a firm belief, and the program in which they are doing good to the people, a program in which they are implementing justice on the earth, a program in which they are trying to create a world order based on ethics. So, when they follow this program, then visible success can be seen in this world itself, and naturally that success would lead to salvation in the life hereafter. With this success and salvation, the promise of human unity is achieved, because this is the path which all can follow without any discrimination. No one is excluded from this path, and when the whole human family follows this path, then we become sure that not only we will achieve success, but our family, our friends, all of us will be there, and they would all of them would share in that salvation, which is actually the fruit of following God's guidance.